Welcome back. My name is Blake. I am a pastor at Three Trails Community, a church in South Kansas City. And this is our guide, Keith, who is a licensed counselor. And in this series of Finding You, Recovering Your Heart, we're going to be talking about that, like finding our heart, which is the tool God has given us to find belonging. Now, if this is your first time with us, you need to go back to the first video. In that, we unpack why we're doing this. Why is the heart important and all those things. So if you've not done that, click on the link. It'll take you to our first video. But in this one, we're going to be talking about really how do we start unpacking the heart? What does it look like? What is it made? Chip Dodd is an author who came up with the spiritual root system. Keith, can you explain that to us? What is a spiritual root system and how does someone utilizes it?
Yeah. So Chip Dodd is basically a modern day theorist, and he's come up with the emotions and then the spiritual root system and then how all of that works together with your limbic system and brain. And so if you remember last time in the APGAR test, because it tests the viability of a child physically if he or she wants to live. And so the spiritual root system is anchoring you back to the way that you're made as an emotional and spiritual creature created for relationship.
It's recovering what we started to hide.
Yes.
Because we reached out,
Yeah.
no one reached back. We cried out, they didn't meet the cry, or we tried to suck in. And so when those things weren't met,
Yes.
we hid ourselves. And so the spiritual root system is that. It's a system that helps us get back to what we were created to be.
We had. In fact, so much of the guidance is not necessarily teaching you something new, but it's pointing you back to something that you had and lost. And so the essence of you, like I have this jump drive here, and if I was to put this jump drive on a scale and it weighs 0.08 grams, and then I put it into my computer and then download all of the software, and I take that jump drive and put it back on the scale, how much is it going to weigh? It's still going to weigh 0.08 grams. And you, the essence of you is the same. You have no mass. And it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that, but the essence of you, we are created as eternal beings. And in Ecclesiastes, we are told that we will live forever. Some of us will live with God, and some of us won't. And as you are journeying back to the way that you're made, God is way more interested in you getting you than he is in you getting him, because he knows that when you get you, it will be very obvious to you about how much you need him.
I think it's important. We all have a system. Some of us, it may be, Windows 95 and it's not working anymore. And so I think that's a great analogy of what this is it's a system that we want to have you kind of upload so that you can function the way you were created. Okay, so right now a photo of the spiritual root system is going to magically appear. And Keith, why don't you walk us through what makes up the components of the spiritual root system?
So the roots of a man go deep in the ground, and their roots are 5. The first and most important root is your feelings, because the feelings are the door that opens you up to the rest of your heart. Because if I don't know what I feel, then I don't know what I need, which is the second root of the spiritual root system. And as you go deeper and deeper into the way that you're made, the other roots are my desires, my longings, and my hopes. And that is the essence of how you are made in the depths of relationship that you are created for.
So we'll be digging a lot deep into the feelings part. But what are our needs if we're talking about relational or how the spiritual root system is designed?
Yeah. So, for instance, if I was to get a cut on my finger, and that feeling of hurt is going to alert me to a need, I'm going to need for that to get attention. And so then I can bandage it up and it begin to heal. But if there was another person on the other end of that cut, and so then I'm going to have a relational hurt, and that relational hurt is going to alert me to a relational need. That I'm going to need not only for that to stop, but I'm going to need to know, why are you doing that? What am I doing that is making you do that relationally? Because that is not good for me. And so I'm pointed back to relationship when I listen to the way that I'm made.
So after needs are desires. What are these desires, or kind of unpack that for us?
So the desires of a man, that is the essence of life. And my desires actually can split right there. I can have the desire to just survive and be independent and live in isolation because I don't want to or won't let myself be human and in need.
Yeah, I've reached out.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. So I shut down.
Yeah.
And that's where the desire, now I'm going to meet my needs through this desire. I don't need relationships.
Right. I can actually be God and get my needs met apart from the way that I'm made. So the fleshly desires, but that's where most of us find ourselves. How did I even get here? But there is the spiritual desires that because of the way God made you, this is actually, if you do these things, it will enhance you in the way that you're made. And because God is a relational God, He says, don't do those things. If you do that, that will harm you. And if I don't trust Him to guide me through the way that I'm made, then I will end up apart from Him and apart from others.
One of the reasons why we talked about doing this study is that spiritually speaking, it talks about all throughout the Bible, take off the old man and put on the new man. Well, if you don't know what the old man is, how can you take him off? And if you don't even know who you are, how do you take that off? And I think for many Christians, we study the new man all the time. Yeah. We reread our Bible. We have Bible study after Bible study. So we're trying to put on the new man without taking off the old man.
Yeah.
And we don't understand why this battle's happening.
Right. It's not either or. It's both and. And so I do need to be studied in the theology. The word theology means study of God. I need to know the objective truth about who God is. And what I believe about God matters. But I also need to be studied in the psychology. And that word psychology means the study of the soul. I need to be studied in my own soul. And my beliefs about me matter a great deal.
When Chip Dodd teaches on this, I think one of the things that I love that he brings up is that he says, as human beings, we are created to be human beings.
Yeah.
Like that's what we were made. I think so many times we talk about like, I am made to glorify God, which is true.
Yeah.
But just like a pecan tree or an orange tree was made to be a tree, I am made to be a human being. And if I don't be a human being, I'm not going to live all that God has called me to be, and I break down.
Exactly. In the DNA, so I keep saying that about in the DNA of how you're made, this will enhance you if you lean into it and if you trust the process and stumble forward in it. So the DNA of a human being is the relationship. You are created as an emotional and spiritual creature built for relationship by a relational God. And so the next route is actually into my longings. And so I have a certain amount of needs, a certain amount of feelings, and the longings, there's a certain amount. I long for home. I long for peace. I long for rest. I long for justice. And that's really getting deep into the roots of the heart, because I can never be fully satisfied here in this broken world, but I can catch the vision about how God made me and about the promises of what He has given me.
I think that's why we why we are emphasizing the spiritual aspect. Because psychologically, you can find you, but we're in a broken world.
Yeah.
Like we can see that. And so you can have the best you now, but there's a limit to it. And that's why I think it's exciting to believe in the God of the Bible, because all those longings for justice and peace, He's saying, I'm going to bring it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, no matter how long you live, you're going to recover your heart, but you're going to find out that all these longings, they're not completely there.
Yeah, and being raised in this Western culture, we have a Greek mindset that is very linear. In my left brain, it's logical, it's linguistic, it's linear, and it loves that all of those words start with L. But it's chronological. But that isn't how I'm made. I'm made in my right brain, which is spatial, artistic, creational, relational, emotional. And I need to integrate those two. And so the Hebrews had that covered. I can struggle and God still be good. That's when you're reading the Psalms.
I think that's so interesting because you and I, as if we talked about it, that is why in our brain, we'll be in a moment and like PTSD and other things, all of a sudden we're somewhere that happened years ago.
Yes.
Because the part of the heart that doesn't have a time system. It's not
Right.
chronological.
Yes, Blake, you're describing the limbic system. So it's in the limbic system where that long-term memories are stored. And that is where PTSD is stored. Because when I get an external stimuli or trigger, or even an internal trigger, then I can have that old limbic response, and it doesn't matter if that was 40 years ago. I could feel the same full rush of emotion that taught me to survive in that original moment.
So as you're talking about the limbic system, and there's not like a time period.
Right.
So what is the speed of the limbic system?
So scientifically, actually, the limbic system, it's all wired and networked together, but you feel 10 times faster than you think or than you even see. It goes through your limbic system first. And one of the most painful or energy draining scenarios in our daily existence is making decisions. When we make all of our decisions from our neocortex, it's exhausting, it wears on you. But when you can just trust your gut and make your decisions from within the limbic system, then the decision itself is more accurate and you didn't waste all of that energy running the what-if scenarios.
It's funny, even though we haven't studied it, we know that. Like you just used the word gut.
Yeah.
Like that's in our culture, we have learned like, I don't know why, but there's just that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And that's because it goes, like you said, 10 times faster than our thought. So it's already been there. It's processed it, it's thought it. And so now we need to push into that.
And so, trust it.
And then, yeah.
The relationship is I trust God. I trust the way that He's made me. And I begin to trust myself and how I'm made. And so there's another verse that says, raise up a child in the way that he should go. And we have turned that into raise up a child in the rules he should follow, and then he will not depart from the rules. But that isn't how it was meant. Raise up a child in the way that he should go, in the way that he's made, and he will not depart from the way that he is made.
So in the longings part, it's really that something that won't be found here. So what's the difference between a longing and a hope?
So a piece of the longings will be found here, but right now we see through a glass dimly. We can only experience so much of it because we do live in a fallen and tragic world. But hope is the substance of things not yet seen. And so when I immediately feel or let myself go towards hope, I now have, it comes back around to feelings. I have an experience of fear because I might not get what I am hoping for. And it's linked and looped that way.
So the heart, we have this heart that helps us go through the human experience. Mm-hmm. And Chris Dodd does talk about this where,
Chip,
I told you, he's not the Minnesota guy at all. Okay. Okay. So God has given us the heart to do this, to experience this human experience. And the human experience is tragic.
Yes.
But it also has great moments. Our heart is to do both. Mm-hmm. It's to run in the tragic, to go through the tragic, but also to celebrate.
Right.
And so the spiritual root system really is to allow our heart to live in the tragic part of the world, but also to celebrate the good. Mm-hmm. Now, why do we live in the tragic world? And I guess biblically speaking, what does the Bible tell us why it's tragic? Because we all agree it's tragic. How did we get here? Why is it like this?
Yeah. So back in the first book of the Bible called Genesis, is in Genesis 3 when this introduction to the fall of man happens. And Adam, the first man, and Eve, and they walked in the cool of the day with their God and in relationship. And one day when Adam fell into sin and lost the image of God, God said the Hebraic word of Aika, and in our language, it's 3 words, where are you? But notice it wasn't a logistical question. He knew where he was.
He's an all-knowing
Right.
God. He knew exactly where he was the whole time.
It's a relational question. And he's saying, actually, the word Aika, it's a lamentation. It means, oh no, where are you? Because he wants relationship with him. And now he's gone. And if he doesn't come back and tell the whole truth, then he can't have a full relationship with him. And he knows it.
So, and I think that is so powerful because the Bible does it. And I think it talks about this human experience. Like, we have the great things, we celebrate them, and that's like the beginning, right? Like, God created a perfect world, the celebration part. But because mankind, Adam and Eve, decided to define right and wrong, to become their own God, the relationship was broken. And from that point on, we're trying to recover it.
Yes.
And we believe that the spiritual root system is a great way, with the help of God, to recover that. And so what is the go-do? What can we do now? So last week last lesson, it was become aware. What's the next step in the process as we try to recover our heart?
So Blake, our go-do for this lesson is continued self-examination. Invite the Lord to ask you, where are you? And his follow-up question of who told you that you were naked? Because there's going to be 2 blocks on this quest, whether it be my fear or be my pride. And I have to examine how much fear and how much pride do I have that's going to keep me from this journey.
Going into that story, so Adam and Eve, they choose to do their own thing. And we talked about this. We were made for a relationship. And it's so interesting. First, when they realized that they disobeyed God, the first thing they noticed was that they were naked. Mm-hmm. So they tried to themselves fix it.
Yeah.
Right? Like what we do. We do that, we cry out, we reach out, we suck in, it doesn't work, so we hide. We cover ourselves with clothes. God shows up. Where are you? The relationship's broken.
Yeah.
And then he goes, who told you you were broken?
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. So it is like, where are you? Who told you were naked? Guys, I'm so thankful for this time. This has been stuff that has really helped me. I know that it has helped you. And so we want to encourage you to join us in our next lesson. And it's really exciting because we're going to be diving into the scripture passage that the spiritual root system is based on. Hope to see you next lesson.